Setting up. Come on. Okay. Sorry, getting texts. Guess I should shut that off. I may have to respond, but whatever. All right, let's pick it up where we left off. Equity pot odds range. This is now where you've got the pieces of how you determine how to continue, and now we're going to put it all together. So let's go.
Now that you understand equity, pot odds, and ranges, let's put them all together to solve a poker situation that you are certain to encounter if you play poker tournaments. Suppose you raise to 2.2 big blinds out of your 16 big blind effective stack from middle position, and the big blind goes all in with this range. This is a really strong range. Pocket 10s and better, ace jack suited and better, ace queen offsuit and better, and king queen suited. Which range of hands should you call the all-in with?
Okay. I'll just let him go through it. I know how he's going to do it, but...
One term you may be unfamiliar with before we move forward is effective stack. The effective stack is basically the shortest stack among the people in the hand. So in this scenario, everybody has about 16 big blinds. Let's just presume that's the case for simplicity. So what would you call this all in with in this?
Side note, I missed a lot of spots when I didn't factor the effective stack. So look at it like this. If I'm on the button, right, and I had a player, and I have 50 blinds, and a player to my direct or in the cutoff or hijack has 22 blinds, and they raise, okay? If there's a situation where I want to 3-bet, meaning my hand is strong enough to 3-bet, unless it's a monster, like unless it's, aces, kings, or whatever, I should just be jamming. Because because this player has 18 blinds, right? Or 20 blinds, whatever it is. If I had 20 blinds on the button with a hand that I wanted to raise with, I would not be 3-betting to 6 or 7 blinds. I would be jamming, because once you put in a 30-year stack, it's kind of all over. So you kind of have to make that decision. So I put myself in that mindset of the effective stack becoming my stack. And I'm always amazed because there's a lot of situations that come up where if I had 20 big blinds on the button and somebody raised, I would jam on them. And I'm like, with hands like king, queen, and just all the jam stacks, right? Now, it's a little different because I have the bigger stack, but if I just tighten that range a little bit, you'd be surprised how many times I've got 35, 40 blinds, 50 blinds, whatever, and I don't want to call with the hand, and I don't want to 3-bet because the player raised from 20 big blinds. They made it 2. They have 18 left. If I 3-bet to 7 and then they jam, well, then we're just getting it in, so I've guaranteed it. But I'm finding that I get better results by just ripping on them and saying, we play for it all. And it's because what I did was I only played off their effective stack. So of my 20... they have, or of my 40, they have 20, so now we both have 20. And that's the way I think about it. It's a little side note that effective stack can be very helpful with, and I think it's something that people should consider. It's one concept I'd like to actually talk to a few poker players about, but I find it's very effective for deciding what to do in those marginal situations where the hand's too good to fold, but if I raise and get jammed on, I don't love it. Like, for me, I don't think I've had it happened yet where I've jammed it and then gotten called and it was a bad situation. Like, typically I'm dominating in those situations, but the rest of the time it's a race. Like, it's very rare to actually run into a big monster coming out of the low jack or cutoff when you're playing proper GTO ranges. So I don't think it can be bad intrinsically, but it's just an interesting thing that I have experienced in the past couple months, and it's done very well.
Scenario. Take a second. Think about it.
Okay, so what he's saying is what do you need to make the call in this range? Okay, so basically what you can do is you can go to Equilab. You can put in the range that jammed on us. Okay, aces, ace king, ace queen, ace jack suited, ace king to king queen suited, queen queen, ace queen off, jacks and tens. Okay, so now we do a little bit of math here. Get the calculator out. So 16 big blinds is the effective stack. Okay, so after the raise, you've got 13.8 left. So there's the opponent's 16 blinds, right? That's the all in. That's what you're faced to call. Plus your 2.2 plus blinds and antes. Okay, so that's about 1.5. So there'll be like one in the big blind. Yeah, it's about 2.5 because there's one for the big blind plus half for the small blind plus one for all the antes in the middle. Okay, so you are now calling 13. Oh, plus your 13.8. Okay, because that's gonna go in the middle. Okay, so you add your 13.8. 34.50. So you're calling 13.8 to win 34.50. Okay. Bring up another calculator. 13.8 divided by 34.5 times 100. That's not right. How did that not come out right? Oh, I did it wrong. Hang on. God damn it, it's too early for this shit, Jonathan. So the total pot is 34.5 divided by my 13.8 equals 2.5 to 1. Okay? So that's what we're getting on a call, 2.5 to 1. Now, if you want to do the percentages here, it's 1 divided by 2.5. So we need 40% equity, right? Because this is, 40%. So that's what we need for this to be a break-even call. You should probably add a little bit to it. So we need to be winning 42 to 45%. So how do you figure that out? Well, we're going to go ahead and figure this range. Versus the other player's range, how do we get there? Now, it's interesting because we could open with all the premium hands. I know that there's a shorter way to do it. I know what it is. God damn it. What is that thing called? Or whatever. Let's just put it in here. I can't put it in there. I can't put it in here? No. Damn it. How do I figure it out? I'm just going to put in a range and see how it stacks. So versus this range, we're 62%. We don't have to be that strong. So let's add a few more. Queens, jacks, ace, queen suited. We're really strong. Tens, nines, eights, ace, queen, king, queen, ace, jack suited. Wow, we are super strong. Holy shit. What kind of range do I need to call this? This is like fucking bananas here. Wow, I cannot get it down to... There we go. All right, that's a little low. Move these. Oh, duh. I can just move this. This is the scroll wheel. That's about right. About 45%. So we need, because we only need 40% to break even, you add about 5%. It's like 8-8 plus, ace 10, all like that. So we are playing in the 7% range of hands. Ace king down to ace 10 suited, We can probably even drop or add one, like ace jack is probably good to add. King queen not so much. I think I would add 7s and 6s. That brings us down right about there. So 6-6 plus, ace 10 suited plus, king 10 suited plus, queen jack off. This is right around where we want to be to make a profitable call. Now, of course, in tournaments, in game, it's going to be a different story, but I'll let Jonathan explain it to you now.
Well, it depends on a few things. First thing you want to ask yourself, what are your pot odds? How often do you need to win? How do we figure those out? Well, it turns out we have to call 13.8 big blinds more, which is 16 minus the 2.2 we already put in, right? So we have to call 13.8 more into a pot that will be 33.5 big blinds total. How do we get 33.5? It's our 16, our opponent's 16, that's 32, plus the big blind ante, plus the small blind. Notice the big blind does not count because we already counted that in our opponent's 16 big blind.
The big blind. I counted it twice because I didn't realize he was in the big blind.
Because our opponent is in the big blind. If the opponent was on the button, let's say, then we would need to add the big blind to the pot as well, so it would be 34.5. But in this scenario, it's 33.5. All right, so we have to call 13.8 to win 33.5. Total, we divide those numbers, gives us 41.2% equity.
It came out close. It had to be a little bit more. It had to be a little bit more because I added the extra blind in. But you can see just one blind changes it from 40% to 41%.
So we need to figure out which hands have more than about 43% equity to justify calling. You may say, why 43 and not 41.2? Because we want to make sure we have a little bit of an edge. We don't need a huge edge, but we do need to have an edge.
Now, this is a little adjustment I made. Based on bankroll, I add an extra little bit, so I try to go 5% ahead of what the calculation is. So if I need 40%, I'll try to figure for 45%. It sounds very small, but because I don't have as many bullets in the chamber, mine have to be more accurate. I found that it's working very well for building the bankroll, and I don't think it's hurt me too much on my chances to get a win, but it's just a little something I do in a cash game or in a proper bankrolled scenario in a tournament, or when I'm like just monster stacked and shit like that, then yeah, I go closer to 42% on 40% being break even.
And whenever you are playing poker, tournaments specifically, you want to make sure that you have an edge in every decision that you make. If you're playing at a disadvantage over and over again, well, you're going to go broke first off. But also, you want to make sure you have an edge because if you take a close spot and lose, well, now you're not going to be in the tournament to take advantage of future, perhaps more profitable situations. That said, don't take this concept too far because you'll see some people play really tightly thinking that they'll get a really amazing spot in the future, but it never comes. Okay, so how do we figure out which hands have this much equity? Let me show you how. All right, using Equilab, what we would do, we would pull up Equilab, clear out all this stuff, and type in our opponent's range. Okay? That's going to be pocket tens and better, ace jack suited and better, king queen. Okay. Looks like this. We click apply. Now, what you could do is you can go through and enter hands manually. We could say pocket aces. Does this have more than 40?
Which is what I did, like a
3%
jackass.
equity? It does, so that's a call. What about pocket kings? That's a call. I would tell you to probably start a little bit lower. Try to find somewhere that's closer to 43%. Like pocket tens. You see pocket tens has 42%, so it's close. Barely profitable, but probably not worth it. What about pocket jacks? 47. So we know we're going to call with pocket jacks and better. Then you can go through ace, queen, offsuit. You see, that's not nowhere near good enough. Remember, it needs to be at least 43. What about ace, queen suited? Still not good enough. So we're going to be at probably ace, king, offsuit only. Right. Okay. So we came up with a range of pocket jacks or better and ace, king, offsuit. However, let me show you a tool that Equilab has that I definitely suggest you use. You can go to Tools, Hand Range Calculator.
Oh, god damn it.
It'll bring up this, and now we will type in we need at least 43% equity.
I'm a fucking moron.
And you click Calculate Hand Range. Remember how I came up with pocket jacks and better and
Jacks,
ace king?
ace king suited,
well, here
ace
it is.
king off.
Pocket jacks and better and ace king. these are the hands that we can profitably call with. We can click apply and it'll bring it over here if you feel like playing with it in the future. So in this scenario, we can call with only pocket jacks or better and ace king. You may say, doesn't seem like very many hands.
Now that's interesting because the tools in the hand range calculator, if we take this out, tools, hand range calculator, we wanted to know our equity 43% versus this range. Calculate hand range. So it's Jack Jack plus Ace King suited, Ace King offsuit. If we take that to the main window and then evaluate it, it comes out to 58% versus that range. We're trying to get it to 43%. Why is that not good enough? I don't understand. What am I doing wrong here? I have the right range entered, right? Oh, hang on a sec, guys. Never mind, she hung up. I thought it was Courtney with an emergency. What is she doing? I'm going to text her. Hang on. So this is the range, right? Yeah, that's good. Huh. So that's interesting because when I use the tools in the hand range calculator, I want a minimum equity of 43% here. Oh, I see what it's saying. Oh, okay. So these hands have a minimum equity of 43%. So it's not exact because it's a very tight range. So when we take it to the main window and we evaluate it, we end up 60% versus the entire range. But these are all the hands that have a minimum of 43. It's trying to. Courtney was trying to. So Courtney was FaceTiming me, and I dismissed it, and then she did it again, and then I dismissed it and texted her. And while I was texting her, she FaceTimed me again, and then I said, "I'm streaming. Is it an emergency?" And she goes, "Oh, okay, no. I was just trying to catch you to tell you to have a great day before you started. Sorry, love you." Love you too. You know, I got to have a conversation because you don't rapid fire call somebody if it's not an emergency. So that's interesting. So because this range needs to be minimum, that means any one of these hands, Jack, Jack plus, Ace, King suited, Ace, King off, the minimum those hands are going to have versus this range is 43%. When we calculate the entire range, we actually end up much better versus this this range in this scenario. That's very interesting. I like that.
For a 16 big blind all in. But the important takeaway here is that when your opponent goes all in very, very, very tightly, notice these are just very, very strong hands, you should only be calling it off with also incredibly strong hands. Let's take a look at another scenario. In this situation, you raise at 2.2 big blinds out of your 25 big blind effective stack from the button, and the big blind goes all in with this range, which is really wide. Let's just presume we know this to be true. Maybe they're using this strategy, maybe they're not, but we're thinking that this is what they are doing. So what should we call the all-in with, assuming there are no payout?
Well, let's figure it out. I'm trying to enter this sucker in all the time. And he did say, assuming there's no payout implications, because that is a factor. When you have ICM factors and there are pay jumps, you kind of have to calculate not only your opponent's range, but also the deck's intrinsic strength. So, because, you know, you could be correct in, jamming versus your opponent, but at the same time, you might be risking too much versus your hand holding up. So, like, versus this range, it's very easy to jam ace-jack offsuit. I mean, this is super easy to jam against. But when you get called, you're going to be taking a pretty close to a coin flip scenario, if not dominated. And you have to ask yourself, is that what I want to do at this stage in the tournament? Now, if you're not near the bubble, or even if you're on the bubble really, and you just don't have a stack to survive, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's a good time to go for it. But if you're like on the final table bubble and the player's doing this and you're third in chips and you know you're going to the final table, if the next time somebody gets eliminated and there's 3 players, on your table with just micro stacks, you're not playing anything here but aces and kings and ace king suited, and you're definitely not trying to race 50 big blinds in that scenario, because that would be ICM suicide. Yeah, you might win and go on to win the tournament, but the fact of the matter is, winning that one pot is not as a big factor to winning the tournament as losing is a fucking disaster. Think about it. If you're third in chips going, and there's 10 people left, you're going into a final table of 9 players, and you have 50 blinds, and the chip leader has 60, and there's another guy who has 55, right? And then the next guy below you has 40 blinds, right? And then everybody else has significantly left, so it's like 30, and then 20, and then like the rest of the guys have less than 20. It's fucking, and there's a couple guys with like 5 blinds or something. It's complete suicide to take a race there. There's actually situations where you can actually fold aces in that scenario, because you're like, I have a great chance to win this thing, no matter if I am not in first place right now, but losing this pot would either eliminate me from the tournament or cripple me. You have to think of scenarios like that. So that's what he's talking about ICM implications. I think I got the whole range here, right? Yeah. So this is the range that we're playing against. Okay, I'm going to close that out. So your opponent raises to 2.2 big blinds of your 25 big blind effective stack. So a little bit different now. You have more chips, okay? Boop. So 2.2 blind, you raise 2.2 blinds at your 25 from the button. The big blind goes all in with this range. Okay, so it's R25 plus the opponent's 25 plus the small blind plus the antes. There is no big blind because our opponent is in the big blind. So it's 51.5, and it costs us, what is that, 22.8 to call off, right? So we're getting 2.25 to 1. So 1 divided by 2.25. So we need 44% equity versus this range, because it's interesting, because the player is so much wider. You would think we would need to be stronger, but the truth of the matter is, because of the amount of blinds it actually brings it back down to earth. So you would think, oh, you only need 30% or something versus this range. Well, because it's so many more blinds, it changes the price. So 44%, let's call it 46%. So let's go over here and go to the tools section, hand range calculator. We want 46% equity versus this range. I'm going to go ahead and calculate the hand range. Here it is, 3-3 plus 3 deuce, blah, 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 blah. Take it to the main window. Evaluate. There you go. Remember, these are hands with a minimum of 46% equity versus this entire range. What should you call the all-in with, assuming there is no payout implications? Well, it's 3-3 plus ace deuce suited, king 10 suited, queen jack suited, ace 5 off, and king 10 off plus. It's a wide call, but it's not quite as wide as it could be if the player had only 10 blinds. Then it's, so much less.
Implications. Again, as you perhaps get closer to getting in the money, you're going to want to have more equity, right? If there's a tiny stack and there's a payout jump immediately, you're going to want to have even more equity. But we're going to presume there are no payout jumps for now. We will be discussing playing in scenarios where there are big payout implications a lot later in this masterclass. So take a second, figure it out. It's the same process we just went through. All right, what are our pot odds? So we have to call 22.8 big blinds more into a 51.5 big blind pot. This is 25 minus 2.2, which is 22.8, into pot that's 51.5, which is our 25, our opponent's 25, the small blind, and the big blind ante. Remember, again, the big blind is already included in our opponent's stack. So 22.8 divided by 51.5 is 44.3%. So again, you probably want to have a little bit of an edge in this spot. So let's presume you want to win 46% of the time. What we would do is we would go over here and enter our opponent's entire range into Equilab. In the future, I'm not going to go through and make you watch me enter all these hands, but for the first few times, I'll show you exactly how to do it, just to show you it doesn't even take all that much time. All right, here we have our opponent's range. I actually had it in that range, that's okay. So now we go to Tools, Hand Range Calculator, make this number 46, click Calculate Range, and now we click Take to Main Window. If you want to see it in the graph, let's just do that. And we see here, these are the hands we can call this 25 big blind all in with, assuming we even want to have a decent edge. Remember, we only need to win 43 or 44.3%. We're actually going to win 46% of the time with this range. And you may say, why are we calling the bigger all in with a much wider range? Well, it's because the opponent's range in this scenario, based on us paying attention to them, is much, much wider than in the first scenario. And that is a very, very important takeaway, right? As your opponent's range becomes wider, or your pot odds become much better, you should call with a wider range. And the alternative is also true, right? As your opponent's range becomes tighter, or the pot odds you are getting are worse, you should call with a tighter range. And I definitely suggest you experiment with different equities and different hand ranges using a program like Equilab to make sure that you fully understand which hands you should be calling with in all sorts of scenarios. And I have a bunch of quizzes lined up to test you to make sure that you fully understand this process, because this really is important and it's vital that you understand which hands you should call an all in with, especially when you are shallow stacked, because in the late stages of tournaments, when you're playing for a lot of money, quite often you are playing shallow stacked, and if you mess that up, especially if you mess it up on a regular basis, well, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to be a winning player. So go through the quizzes, make sure you get all of them right, and we'll continue proceeding forward.
This is one, a little tip that I have. Anytime Jonathan Little says, go through the quizzes, make sure you get all of them right, he explained in a live Q&A that he means go through the quizzes, make sure you do them all right. That means that if you do one of the quizzes right, and there's 5 questions, and you get the first 2 right, and then the third one you get wrong, and then you get the last 2 wrong, right, okay? Go back through the quizzes, do them all again until you get them all right. If the second time you get the first 2, the first 3 right, and you get the 4th one wrong and the 5th one right, go back through, go all of them right until it's drilled into your head. And honestly, it's a very smart way to do it, and it makes sure that you don't make any mistakes or you don't rush. Now, with something like this, it's going to get much easier as we go, but let's go ahead and do the quiz now. Suppose you raise to 2.2 big blinds out of your 15 big blind effective stack from the button. The big blind goes all in with this range. How much equity do you need to break even on this call? We're only talking about breaking even, okay? So what we're going to do is we don't even need the hand range calculator. This is one of those word problem things. So it's our 15 plus the opponent's 15 is 30 blinds, plus the small blind, plus the big blind ante, okay? Plus the ante that's out there. So 31.5, we have to call 12.8 big blinds. So we're going to divide the total pot divided by what we're calling, divided by 12.8 equals 2.46 to 1. So we divide 1 divided by 2.46. We need 40.06. So we need about 40%. So 41% is close enough. You always round down because we're talking about a minimum. This is the, if Johnny has 3 apples and you give him, you know, and you want to make a pie, and the pie takes an apple and a half. How many pies can you, or an apple and a quarter? How many pies can you make? Well, you can only make fucking 2 pies because even though you have some apple left over, you know, whatever. So we're gonna round up. It's 41%. Boom. That's how you calculate the equity. See, it throws you off because he gave you the range, and you're like, oh, I got to put the range in. You don't need the range. This is the first thing you solve for. The very first thing you solve for is, what do I need? That's the percentage. Cool. Now, what's his range look like? Boom. Cool. Now, what hands do I need to have this percentage versus that range? Boom. That's where it is. Now we can make the call. Or fold. Suppose your has 2.2 big blinds effective stack from the button, and the big blind goes all in with this range. Which range should you call, assuming you want 2% more than the break even? So, we need, we're getting 40%. This is the same as last time. 15 big blinds, 2.2 from the button versus the big blind. So, it's the same numbers. So, we want to have 42% equity, 43% equity, we'll call it, right? So, how do we figure it out? Well, we go over here to Equilab, and we're going to enter the opponent's range. Okay? So the opponent's range, and here's the shortcut. Okay? You don't even have to type everything. So it's 7-7 plus Ace-10 plus, oh, god damn it, not equals, plus, little commas in between here, King-10 plus, comma, Queen-10 suited, plus, Queen-Jack. Okay? So this is the range our opponent has. Okay? We want 43% against this range because 2% more than break even. So we're going to go to the tools, hand range calculator. We want 43%. Calculate. 4-4 plus Ace-8 suited, Ace-5 suited, Ace-4 suited, King-Jack suited plus Ace-10 off and King-Queen off. Well, looky what we found here. Boom! That's the number. Pretty damn good. First time chatter. Hey, Flip, you can copy and paste. Oh, duh. Yeah, I could have copied and pasted this. Like a fucking idiot. Thanks. That's a good point. I could have copied and pasted it. That's fucking funny. All right. Suppose you raise the 2.2 blinds out of your 25 big blind effective stack in the low jack, and the cutoff goes all in with this range. What do you need to break even on this call? Well, it's a little different now. Where's my calculator? All right. So, the, let's see here. Interesting. Just got a message from somebody, sorry. Let's see here. Okay, so it's our 25 plus the opponent's 25. So that's 50. Plus the big blind, the small blind, and the big blind ante. So the total's 52.2. We need to call 25 big blinds total, so that's 22.8. So we're going to divide this by 22.8. Equals 2.3 to 1. So we're going to go 1 divided by 2.3 equals 43%. So we're going to round up. We're going to call it 44%. 43.47, blah, blah, blah. We're going to call it 44%. Boom! Looks good. Suppose you raise 22 big blinds out of the effective stack from the low jack and the cutoff goes in with this range. What range should you call, assuming you want more than 2%? Okay, so now we know it's easier thanks to just for the holes. I guess which is like lulls, but just like holts. So now this is the range. I'm gonna copy that. I'll paste that in here. We got to take out the word "and," of course. And we said that our range needed to have 43% to break even, so we want 2% more, so we want 45%. Tools, hand range calculator, we want 45%. The range is 9-9 plus, ace queen suited, and ace queen offsuit. Did I do it wrong? Oh, I might be calculating too high. 2% more than a break even. I might be calculating too high. Let's go 44%. That's about the same. 9-9, ace jack suited plus ace king off, king queen suited. Doesn't look right. What was the first number? The first number was 43%, right? So we want 2% more, so it should be 46%? Is that where I screwed up? Ten plus ace queen suited plus ace queen offsuit plus. So it's right here. Okay, so it's 46% because we got to round up the extra number. Bang. All right, we got it. A good way to know all this on the fly is to learn 1-to-1 is 50%, 2-to-1 is 33. Yeah, exactly. On the fly, we actually talked about that yesterday. There's like 5 different sets of numbers, 2-1, that you know. I'm just doing it long form now to show it as accurately as possible. But obviously 1-to-1 is 50%, 2-to-1 is 33, 4-to-1 is 20%, 5-to-1 is, what is that, like 17%. You know, you can go all the way down the line. But, you know, and that's true. On the fly, you want to have that memorized, and I'm with you because you don't have time to pull out a calculator and fucking sit there and do all this shit. But in study, I like to get it as accurately as possible, so I'll always use a calculator, always use a hand range calculator, always use, you know, the exact numbers I can get. Because I find that while estimating's good, you lose the little edges. So let's say I'm always rounding up or I'm always rounding down or I'm just saying, it's about 2-to-1 or whatever like that. You know, if it was 33%, that's cool. But what if it was like 38%? You know what I'm saying? Then that little extra 5% edge, I might not know it in the front of my mind when I play, but I'll definitely know it somewhere in my subconscious. There are times when I sit there and I look at hands and I go, I don't think I'm getting quite the right odds here. It's close, but I think it errs on the wrong side. And I'll fold, and then later I'll go and do the math, and I was like, oh, I was right. Yeah, I was like 5% behind here. You know what I'm saying? And little things like that, they're negligible. I grant you, they're very negligible. But at the same time, they're actually very important because you have to know the standard before you can go to the estimation. And, you know, in game, I'm going to make mistakes. You know, I'm not going to know, you know, what 7.2-to-1 is, so I'm going to have to estimate, you know what I'm saying, and say 7-to-1, you know, which is about 12%, you know, something like that. Or whatever it is, 13%. Now it's like 14%. Whatever. Yeah. Where are you living now? Last time I seen you, you had moved to Canada to play on Stars and that. That was a while ago, man. Yeah, I was only in Canada for like 6 months. We just did that to take a trip. We actually found out that you can, as an American, you can go to Canada for up to 180 days a year with no passport, or you just need a passport. You don't need a visa. You don't need anything. All you got to do is show them that you're not going to be a vagrant, you know, like, so we just kind of showed them the bank account. And they said, okay, that's enough to live off of for 6 months. Cool. And, you know, because that was the estimated time of our stay. But we could have just gone up there and said, oh, we're just staying for 2 weeks. And then just stayed. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no anything until you get past 180 days. And then we could have come back to the U.S. and gone back for 180 days and back and forth and all like that. I just did it for that experience. I will say it was awesome. I loved playing on PokerStars again. I hadn't played on PokerStars in years and years. I did okay. I will say I was nowhere near the poker player I am now, which I hope everybody can say that 5 years after, you know, an event. You're a much better poker player now. But I also just wasn't as complete a human being. Like, I handled tilt very poorly, and I put the wrong kinds of pressure on myself, and I wasn't enjoying the game as much. and it actually led to me feeling way too much stress and pressure with streaming. And then I was driving Uber back here and doing the Uber vlogs because, things weren't going so well. And then I just quit. I just quit streaming and all like that because you couldn't get, subs through affiliates. And I was very bitter about that. You had to be tapped on the shoulder by Scott Ball at the time, who ran Twitch Poker. And there were times, there's actually a funny Canadian stream that has since been deleted, where I was on a final table of some big tournament, and on PokerStars, and I was doing very well, and somebody sent me and every other question was, where's your sub button, where's your sub button, because I was in PokerStars on Canada in a big final table where I think top prize was something like $9,000 or something, and it was like, it was like a $20 buy-in that I took, that far, and we had just hit the final table, and every other question was, where's your sub button, where's your sub button, and I tried to explain I don't have one and I can't get one, and there was like 800 people watching me at that moment, and I was like, guys, thank you so much, let Scott Ball know I should have a sub button, I should be a partner, because that's the only way you got it at the time. On that stream, somebody sent me a screenshot of a guy who was a friend of Scott Ball's, who had 20 followers. I had over 3,000, I think, at the time. The guy had 20 followers, and he already had the sub button as partner. He was just a friend of Scott's. And it was very disheartening. It really upset me, and probably contributed to my bitterness at the time. But now I'm streaming more so for, one, it keeps me focused, because I do this every morning. I do the wake up with me, because this is what I do every morning. I wake up and I go over hand histories, or I study, and this kind of keeps me disciplined to do it every single day. I haven't missed a day yet. It's been 49 days that I've been back streaming. And I'm trying to have fun. That's why I changed the name and the whole thing like that. Yeah, I had some bad tilt issues, so I bought Elliot Rowe Masterclass, do a warm-up before every session now. Yeah, I love Elliot Rowe's stuff. He's got a lot of mental game shit. That's really important. I actually went further and went back to studying philosophy, but also I was a much different person, and I had other issues. Exclamation point name, if you want to see why I changed the name, and exclamation point closet to know other things about me. Or do it the fun way, exclamation point nails, Nails. You'll find out why I wear the nails. But yeah, so I think, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because it is a game of people. You kind of have to be a more complete person to get better results. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just generally depressed, it's kind of brutal. So yeah, so that was kind of the thing. But now I'm back at it, and I'm excited to stream pretty much every day. I do stream every morning at around noon, to do these like study sessions and hand reviews. But then I stream later that night. So playing about 4 to 5 nights a week, which is fun. Plus the YouTube has a whole bunch of content. That's been a lot of fun, is making the YouTube stuff. So make sure you follow that. Let's go on to the next section here.
Now let's discuss counting combinations of hands. So, for every unpaired hand, like Ace King, 9-7, 7-2, etc., there are 16 combinations of each hand. There are 4 suited. You see them here: Ace King of Diamonds, Ace King of Hearts, Ace King of Clubs, Ace King of Spades. And then there are 12 unsuited for
the shorthand. Cards you do not see. Okay, if you're trying to figure out how many combinations of Ace King there are, you raise pre-flop with jacks and a player 3-bet, and you called, and the flop comes off 9-5-4. So you don't see any aces or kings. Well, that means all combinations are available. So there's 4 aces, there's 4 kings. Multiply them together, you get 16 combinations that are out there. Now, if there's an ace on the flop, right, if it's ace 9-4 and you have jacks, is less likely the player has ace king. Now, granted, you have to determine this, but there's only 3 aces now and 4 kings that you do not see. That's 12 combinations left in the deck. Good on you coming out, mate. Thanks, my man. I appreciate it. It's more, it's crazy because it's more than coming out. I actually had a full double life. Different, half the people I knew me by a different name. Half the people I knew, thought of me as Jonathan. I had a girlfriend, long-term girlfriend, we just broke up, like about a month ago. So we were together for almost 4 years, completely hidden, like completely hidden. And, some people knew I was married and in the closet, and other people didn't know. But nobody from my straight side ever knew that I was anything other than 100% straight and, whatever. And, now it's a much more honest, open life. And being pan and poly, it's kind of awesome because it's brought me and my wife so much closer together. She's actually out right now. On Sundays, she goes, Saturday night, she goes over to her boyfriend's house and she spends the night there. And she'll be back tomorrow, right? And I'm by myself in the house for, like 40 or 36 hours, right? Which, believe it or not, it's been really great for me because I need time to reset and be alone. I've realized that, Watched your video, Jedi Mind Tricks #9. That was so funny, the laughing heart. Yeah, Gray. I love that one. That's a great one on YouTube, the Jedi Mind Tricks. But it's also very instructive because I do the math later. This is one where I knew it on the fly, but I do the math later. And you can see I was getting the pot odds versus the range, which was the deck, to call. And that player just bet so small. I absolutely had the right amount. I believe I needed 14%, and I had almost 16%. I had like 15.9% to call for the gut shot on the river if that was my only out. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't have to be my only out, but it just so happened to be. And then, of course, I hit it. So, yeah. And that's the other thing. Doing the way I do it now, Star Wars is my favorite thing in the world. So I that's why I changed the name to Qui-Gon Broke, kind of like Qui-Gon Jinn, but gone broke, that kind of thing. And I wanted to integrate Star Wars into everything. And because when I actually play poker, when I was very young, my early 20s, and so what I would do is I knew about certain poker players and the way they kind of played, and I had this visualization technique where I would envision myself pulling on a mask of them, like over my head, like a latex mask. And I had ideas in my head of what would Phil Hellmuth do here, what would Phil Ivey do here, what would Doyle Brunson do here, what would Stu Unger do here, because I'd read or learned or seen about these people, and I would say, okay, I'm going to play it their way, and I would put it on. Then I realized that was not specific enough, so I went to comic book characters, and I went with how would Superman play a hand, how would Batman play a hand, how would this, and I went to those. And then it evolved, and later it became Star Wars characters. Because Star Wars has so many characters, it's fucking crazy. Like, there's thousands of characters in Star Wars, and I know so much about Star Wars, it's fucking insane. So I know about every character in Star Wars to a much greater degree than you probably should, knowing that Dengar's ship was called the Punishing One. It's just like, it's crazy. And it's something that I love. And it keeps me motivated so that, sometimes in a hand, I'm sitting there playing the assist to the Pancake Kid, as Lando. It's a fun thing in my mind, and it keeps me very focused. It's very unique. I don't recommend it for everybody. Another good one is Marvel characters, because those are very big, stark characters. You can kind of envision that method. It's like Phil Hellmuth had a book years ago where he described players as different kinds of animals, and he said the top players are eagles, and then there's donkeys, and there's there's fish, and there's sharks, and there's whatever like that. So that's how he classified them. So it's very similar to that. Let's see, those percents were wrong on that video. You only have 9%. The reason that part 4 says 15% is because it knows the villain's exact hand. Well, no, it's versus the range of the deck. In game, also, you have to account for the fact that if you do hit, you could be chopping. True, but not in that scenario. I felt like in that scenario, I didn't know that I was absolutely beat, so I thought the king could possibly still be good. I did have that feeling. So I wasn't 100% yet. But when he calls it on the river, my exact odds were about 8 or 9% because of just the 4 outs. But if you consider the fact that he could have king queen, and then we chop with the 10, or if he has something like I don't know, I forget the run out of the board, but there were situations where my direct odds, yes, were 8%, so I didn't have it. But here's the thing: if I didn't have it at 8 or 9%, right, but I did have the pot odds that I know I'm getting paid when I hit it, there's a hell of an expected value there. And you can see on that river, I did jam it in and get it. And those 2 big blinds didn't hurt me. So that was kind of like a gamble thing you could take into account. Plus, I didn't know that the guy had me crushed, right? I thought there was a good chance. But based on how much he bet, I truly don't think I could have folded it. But the odds aren't wrong. They're wrong if I go against direct knowledge, but they're not wrong if I go against the fact that the king could be good too sometimes, which is possible. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a long shot, but the whole hand was a long shot. It's possible. And plus, in the end, my expected value was the guy's whole stack. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. But I don't think the hit is... you can account for the hit chopping, but you can see as we get into combinatrix, how often is the hit chopping? You know what I'm saying? Like, not very, because I have a king. There's only 3 kings left in the deck, and we're in the blinds. And the way that hand played out, it's not too likely he has a king. Now, granted, he was just uber trapping with aces, but without a raised preflop, I really can't give him much credit for a king. Like, he could have just had a jack, right? I mean, he could have had anything. Who knows? Was still a great video, though. Yeah, and it was a really funny hand. And you're right, it's not perfect, but no situation is. But I think in that exact scenario, I think all the things that came together made it worth it. So maybe I gave up a 6 or 7% edge going to the river. Yeah. But then I was able to overbet the pot and get his whole stack. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's good enough. Like if you can sit there and say you're taking the worst of it by 5 or 6% here, but if you hit the river, you're guaranteed to get paid, 300%, then yeah, I think it's a good play. And that's the thing, is I was absolutely convinced that that I was getting paid when the straight hit. The guy was a super fish, serves him right the way he played his hand. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was super risky, but the odds were excessively in his favor. So maybe the only thing he did wrong was betting that small on the flop because of all the draws out there. Or just, you know what I think I would have done? I probably would have... I could have played the hand the same up until the turn. Then on the turn, I would have bet enough to make the other player just shove his stack in, because at that point, there's a lot of situations where the other player has 2 pair. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not going to fold the set of aces anyway, you might as well get it in now before an action killer comes off, right? So, like, what if I had, queen jack, and I've made 2 pair now on the turn? You know what I'm saying? So, like, if a 10 hits the river, if an ace hits the river, if a 9 hits the river, right, which I think double paired the board, then it counterfeits my queen jack. I think that's what I would have done different with the aces versus a hand like queen jack, is on the turn I wouldn't have bet 2, I would have bet somewhere around 4.5 or 5 blinds. Other than that, though, he's playing a super trap. Yeah, if the board pairs, it also kills the action. That's really the main concern. In that scenario, when you have the trip aces top set, that's really your only concern, is the other guy not having enough to pay you. Now, his biggest mistake, I do believe, was pre-flop and on the turn. So, yeah. I can't call him a fish, though, because he was short-stacked, and there are times when I play hands, and I'll look right at the camera and say, I'm playing this like jokers. Meaning, I have only one goal. That's to get all the money in. I don't care what the board does. My chips are too small. My equity's too great. I don't give a fuck. It's like if you had 20 blinds and somebody raised and you flopped a set, right? You're really never folding this, right? The player bets 5 on the flop. You're not going to raise. You're just going to call. Even if the board runs out horrible, the money's just going in because you're statistically too far ahead. And the amount of times I've been doubled up with a set when there was a 4-card straight or 4-card flush on the board that I didn't have the flush or straight, it's fucking staggering. Like, so sometimes you just have to say, fuck it. Regardless of the run out, am not folding, same here. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So in that case, if he's not folding, he should just be worried about getting value. And that's where his real mistake was. Now, if he bets 5 on the turn, do I call? No. I just fold. And he got 2.5 blinds out of me. Whoop-de-doo. You know what I'm saying? But then again, he doesn't lose the other 19 behind when the 10 comes off. That was so funny because it was such a genuine reaction. I was just cackling. Like, I knew when I shoved all money in, after a couple seconds, you can see in the video, I start giggling. I know I'm getting called. I know that the player has at least 2 pair, and he's like, fuck! Which is the best feeling in poker. I've done that live to people where the obvious draw came off, and the guy bets some kind of blocker bet on the river, and I've jammed 5x pot, and they've sat there looking at me like a sad dog going, why would you do that, man? You know I don't have the ability to fold. And it's just, it's so funny to me. I actually had a guy years ago when I was at the Venetian, so like 2006. I was in my off time. I actually got talked to about this because in our off time we would play poker in between games, right? We got paid to prop. So I did that like 30 hours a week of the 40 I worked. So there was one of those situations. And it was tilt oozes out of people live. It really does. People tilt way more live than online because you're not as comfortable. You know, at home, I could sit here in my underwear watching Netflix while I'm sitting there playing, you know. Live, you're kind of just sitting there next to somebody smelling their body odor. But I ended up putting this guy in, and it was on the river. There was a 4-card straight on the board, and I had the nuts. And the guy made some bet, and I just jammed, and it was a big bet. We were playing 2-5, and we were both kind of stacked up. So there was like 600 in the pot, and no, there was less. There was like 400 in the pot, and he bet like 200 on the river, and I immediately jammed all in. And I jammed all in a very, very dickhead way where I just took one hand and went all of it and just shoved my hand through, and I actually knocked down all the chips. This 800 chip, red chip stack. I just knocked them all down. It was like just this pile. It fell down like a house of cards. And I just started laughing. And the guy goes, really? Do you really have an ace? And I go, yeah, it's very unlikely I would have an ace here, right? Like, I couldn't possibly have ace, king, top pair, and have run out a straight versus your 3 of a kind. That's absolutely impossible, right? I was like, if you think that's impossible, bro, you should probably quit poker and, I don't know, go kill yourself. And he called me. And I said, dude, and I showed him the ace, and he got pissed, and he walked out of the poker room. Before his chips got pushed to me, walked out of the poker room. And he actually had to come back to get his hat. I remember that was really funny. And later I got a talking to, but in the end, my defense was, I understand, but dealing this week, I've made about 10 hours of dealing, which is like, whatever it was like $200. I said that one pot was worth $1,200 to me. Like, the guy lost $1,200 in the pot, so I'm going to do anything I can to get called. And my poker room manager, God, I wish I could remember his name, Ellie? Something like that. He said, I understand, but don't say that to me. And I was like, okay. So he was very cool about it. Let's go through combinatrix.
16 total. However, let's discuss how that changes on various boards. On a board like Ace 6 4, Ace of Hearts, 6 of Clubs, 4 of Diamonds, now there are only 12 combinations of Ace King available because the Ace of Hearts is on the board. As you see here, if you remove all of the Ace of Hearts from this image, this is removed, this is removed, this is removed, and this is removed, you are left with these 12 combinations remaining. And a neat trick you can do to figure out how many combinations of any hand is available is you can take how many of the unseen cards are there. So if there's an ace on the board, there are now 3 aces left, and 4 kings left. 3 times 4 equals 12. That means that there are 12 combinations of ace-king available on ace-6-4. Same thing goes for a hand like 7-6. There are 4 7s times 3 6s remaining. When there's a 6 on the board, 4 times 3 is 12. Also, you can see that there are 9 unsuited and 3 suited remaining. Now, let's try.
So now that's a fun point to remember, is that when we talk about the concept of the reasonable nuts, right? The conceivable nuts, the effective nuts. If there's a flush on the board and it's a 3-bet pot, right? And you hold the ace of the suit on the board, well, it's not highly likely your opponent has, like if you have the ace-king with the ace of diamonds and the king of clubs, right? And the board runs out with 3 diamonds on it and 2 clubs. And you hold the ace of diamonds. Well, because of that, you can now remove all combinations of the suited ace of diamonds in this scenario, meaning that if you're facing serious aggression, you can kind of figure, well, you're not up against a flush. What am I up against? You could be up against a, this is also a good one for if you have like a set versus a flush board, right? So if you have like pocket 9s and a guy raises and you call it and it comes off ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, or ace of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, and you have pocket 9s, right? You made a set. There's an ace on the board. The other player bets. How likely is it he has a flush? It's nowhere near as likely as if that ace wasn't out there, because he's going to raise with all suited aces. Now, he can have king, queen suited, sure, king, jack suited, but like if it's ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, now all those combinations are removed. So now you have to figure out, wait a minute, am I up against just a pair, or does this guy actually have aces or kings? But it makes it easier because you can remove those parts from the deck of the conceivable nuts. And there's a lot of situations where I'll get into where I'll end up snap calling very easily. And I've had players even ask me, how the fuck do you call that so easy, when it's, all these chips is like 80 blind stack. It's like, well, because nobody's going to jam 80 blinds with a flopped flush. And the ace of diamonds is out there. So what's the best case scenario? Well, unless the guy has aces, highly unlikely, he's got the draw. So he's got ace king offsuit with the king of diamonds. Board pairs on the turn. We get all the money in. Ta-da! You know what I'm saying? He's drawing dead. Unless he makes another full house, like if it's ace king ace or whatever. But little things like that will help you gain more confidence and get more value for the most part. So I'll let him keep going. I just like to
try to ask ourselves, how many combinations of 7-5 are there on ace 6-4? Well, the board doesn't contain a 7 or a 5, right? Therefore,
oh, this is what he's talking about here, the open-ended straight draw. How likely is it, right?
there are 4 7s times 4 5s. 4 times 4 is 16. However, you're going to see later that everyone doesn't actually play every combination of 7-5, because some people only play the suited versions. So, if your opponent plays perhaps a standard or maybe tight strategy, if they do even have 7-5 available to them, they may only play the 4 suited hands that are possible. So, let's go back to ace 6-4. How many combinations of ace 6 for 2 pair exist? Well, in this scenario, your opponent can't have the ace of hearts, and they can't have the 6 of clubs. So, we have our hand grid here, and if you remove those, you see that there are now 9 possible combinations. And again, the easy trick to do this is there are 3 aces available and 3 6s available. 3 times 3 equals 9. What if your opponent doesn't play all ace 6 hands though? What if they only play the suited versions? Well, now, in this situation, only 2 combinations exist, because that could be the ace of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, and it could be the ace of spades, 6 of spades. Notice this would change though if the board was ace of hearts, 6 of hearts, 4 diamonds. Then there would be 3 combinations available. So you have to use a little bit of thought process there to figure out how many combinations of the specific suited one is available, because if both cards on the board are the same suit, then there are 3. If they are not, then there are 2. Okay? Now let's discuss paired hands. there are 6 combinations of each pair available. As you see them here they all are. If one of those cards is not available, though, like let's say the ace of diamonds is not available when we're discussing pocket aces because it's on the board or in your hand, right? If one of those cards is not available, then there are now 3 combinations. And if 2 of the cards are not available, then there is only 1 combination. So, on 9, 6, 3, all diamonds, how many combinations of sets exist? Well, you know, you can't have the 9 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, or 3 of diamonds in your hand. So, that means there are 3 combinations of each set, which is 3 of a kind when one of them's on the board. There are 3 combinations of each set available.
This one used to fuck me up. There's a shorthand, okay? How many sets of 9s are there? There are 3 unseen 9s in the deck. How many different cards is that? 1. 3 combinations of 9s left.
Right? And that makes logical sense. As you can see, we have 3 pocket 9s available, 3 pocket 6s available, 3 pocket 3s available. What about on 9, 9, 6? Well, now you know there's only 1 combination of pocket 9s available, and there's only 3 combinations of pocket 6s available, right? So that means that there are 4 combinations of sets or 4 of a kind in this scenario. To be fair, a set here is a full house. If your opponent played 9-6 suited, take a second, ask yourself, how many combinations of 9-6 suited are available if your opponent plays them?
There's 2 9s, there's 3 6s, there's 6 combinations of 9-6.
On 9.
Or suited, hang on, let's suited. So we can take out the diamonds and the hearts. So that means that the 9-6 of spades exists and the 9-6 of clubs exists. Because we have to take out the 9 of diamonds and the 9 of hearts. So there's only 2 combinations suited left.
9, 9, 6. Take a second, think about it. It's a bonus question for all of you. Well, here, they can have 9 of clubs, 6 of clubs, and 9 of spades, 6 of spades. So there are 2 combinations of that. How many combinations of 9, 6 total are there if they play the suited and the offsuit? Take a second, think about it.
Well, that's easy. There's 2 9s and 3 6s, so that's 6 combinations. 2 times 3.
Now there are 2 9s available and 3 6s available. 2 times 3 equals 6. As you see, this is just purely a multiplication problem, and you need to practice it over and over so that you know how many combinations of a hand are available. Now let's discuss the concept of blockers. Some people think the idea of a blocker does not matter all that much, but if you do have a relevant card in your hand that makes it more difficult for your opponent to have a strong hand, that's going to reduce some number of potential hands that your opponent can have. Now, a very obvious example of this is, let's say there are 3 spades on the board, and you have the ace of spades in your hand, but not another spade. So you know your opponent cannot have the ace of spades. A lot of people may look at this and think, well, but can't your opponent have all the other flushes? They could. But let's actually take a look at this. If we look at the reasonable hands that are played that are suited, right? We have all the ace X suited, we have the good king X suited, and then the kind of decent connected ones. You'll see here that hands containing the ace of spades are actually 1/3, 33%, of all total potential flushes that are available. So this is a very important concept, because the fact that you have the ace of spades in your hand means that your opponent is going to have a flush only 67% as often as they would normally have a flush. And that kind of information can heavily sway your decision. As another example of blockers, let's say someone raises before the flop and you have ace 2 offsuit in your hand. Ace 2 offsuit is not a good hand, but if you have that ace, well, how likely does your opponent have pocket aces compared to normal? Take a second, think about it.
You see an ace. There's 3 left in the deck. There's only 3 combinations of pocket aces left, so it's far less likely.
You know that 1 ace is missing from the deck because it's in your hand, which means that they can only have 3 combinations instead of 6. That means when you have an ace in your hand, they are 50% as likely to have pocket aces. What about ace king? How less likely are they to have, or how less likely are they going to have ace king when you have an ace in your hand compared to when you don't?
So when you have the ace in your hand, there's 3 aces unseen, 4 kings. That's 12 combinations. If you didn't have an ace in your hand, there would be 16 combinations, so it's 25% less likely. You get into stuff like this, and it seems very elementary, and you go, well, duh, but who cares? Well, the thing of the matter is, you should care, because in a scenario where you think you may be getting bluffed, and you have an ace, and there's an ace on the board, right? And you're calling down to hero call, understanding that there's less combinations of aces in the deck makes it more likely. So if you're sitting there figuring it out, something that you can go back to are the combinations of feasible hands left. A common one is when there's a draw on the board, like a straight draw. So let's say you have the ace 10, right, offsuit, and the flop comes out, you know, ace queen 9, right? This is a very common one. And your opponent raised and you just defended from the big blind. And you check it and your opponent bets. And you can go, okay, well, I have an ace. I got to see what happens coming off here. Or you have the ace deuce, or ace 5, let's say. Let's make it easier, okay? The turn comes off and it's a 4. And you check and your opponent bets again. And you feel like he's not super strong, but you're not sure whether you should call. Well, what combinations of hands are you up against? If you're up against the most obvious draw, 10 jack, having no 10 in your hand and having an ace in your hand is awesome, because it means that there's more combinations of 10 jack for this player to have. They can also have, you know, queen 10, they can have king queen, they can have, you know, 9 10, they can have queen jack, they can have all these hands because of all those combinations that exist. And it's 25% less likely that they have an ace in this scenario that beats you, okay? And plus, when high cards keep coming out, it actually becomes less likely that they have an ace that beats you. So if the river comes off a 5 and you've made 2 pair, and the board is ace, queen, 9, 4, 5, now you have 2 pair, you kind of can't bet it, because there is a chance the player has ace, queen, but it's highly unlikely. So you don't want to bet in that scenario. You want to check and assume your opponent is going to bet. And when they bet, you can then determine that they're bluffing much easier. In that scenario, you're going to see a lot of value bets, which could be hands like ace queen or ace king or ace jack that you've sucked out on, right? Or you're going to see bigger bets that are typically polarized, meaning this player's saying, I got 2 pair or I got nothing. And it's far more likely in that scenario that the opponent has nothing, because there's just way more combinations of draw hands that missed and 1 ace hands that don't pair the board. Now, because there's a king on the, or the queen on the board, and there's a 9 on the board and all like that, like there's more combinations of him having ace king, ace jack. There's fewer combinations of him having ace queen, ace 9. He raised preflop. How likely is he raising preflop with ace 4, right? Or ace 9? Well, if the ace 9 was suited and he's in the cutoff, sure. But how many combinations of the suit are there? If there's one suit of an ace on board and then the other suit of a 9 is on board, well, now you can remove 3/4 of the combinations of suited ace 9s. There's only 2 left. So you can do this math and figure out how much more likely you're getting bluffed versus how likely you're up against a value hand that beats you. And in those scenarios, it makes calling just so much easier. There's a video, I believe it's the one with, oh God, it's Jedi Mind Tricks number, oh, I just played it last night. I'm going to look it up. Hang on. I'm going to look it up. It's going to be real quick, I promise. It's the one with Luke Skywalker and Rey on the front of it, but I replaced Rey's face with mine. Let me go to my YouTube here. There's one where...
Nice call, Clan.
Oh, hang on.
I think I would have called that with any pair.
God damn it. That's the wrong video. I got to switch accounts. Hang on. Ooh, 17 subscribers on the YouTube. New YouTube stuff coming out very soon, by the way, guys. That's awesome that you guys followed the YouTube. There's new stuff coming out in the next 2 days. I have a really cool idea for a video. So, where is it? It's Jedi Mind Tricks. It's the one with me and Skywalker. Not this one. Not 7. This one. Jedi Mind Tricks number 6. This hand that's illustrated here with the scenes, the first hand that's on the thing, it's a hero call, and I go through the combinatrix of it, and I say, well, how likely is he to have this? How likely is he to have that? And it makes just a very easy call on the river. So I would suggest after this, watch Jedi Mind Tricks number 6, and you'll see what I'm saying about the combinatrix thing, where how likely is it your opponent's bluffing. Sometimes there's more combinations reasonably that they can be bluffing with than they can have for value hands.
Well, if you have that ace in your hand, now there's only 3 aces times 4 kings left. It means there's 75% as likely to have ace king. So when you have that random ace in your hand, that becomes a reasonable hand to consider bluffing with, because you know it's less likely that your opponent has pocket aces or ace king or ace queen or ace jack, right? Now, of course, your opponent could still have pocket kings or pocket queens. They could still have some good hands, but it just reduces the likelihood that they have a strong hand a little bit. And it turns out a little bit is often all you need to justify making a bluff in some scenarios. So you need to practice. You want to consistently put your opponents on ranges. Remember, the marginal suited hands, like 7-5 suited, most people only are going to play 4 combinations of those, whereas for the better hands, like King Queen, for example, most people are playing 16 combinations of those. So don't always assume that your opponent has all 16 combinations of an unpaired hand available, because they may not play the suited or the unsuited ones. And you also need to practice this. This needs to become very, very easy for you to do. So I have a bunch of quizzes set up that are going to ensure that you know how to count the number of combinations of each hand that is available, because this is going to become very important as we delve a little bit deeper into pre-flop and then post-flop play.
Yeah, that's the thing. Reducing it down to suited combinations makes it less likely that you're going to get bluffed, because in scenarios where players are betting like they have a straight, and that perfect example of 7-5, where it's like 4-6-3 on the flop, or ace 4-6 on the flop, and the player bets in you and you have an ace, and the turn comes off a 3 and he bets again, and the turn comes off, or the river comes off a deuce and he bets again. You got to figure, how likely is it that this guy actually has a 5? How many combinations of suited 5 are there? But let's say it comes off, ace 4-6 3-3, right? Like, how often does he have a set? How often does he have a straight? All like that. If you say he can have 16 combinations of 7-5, well, the guy opened from the low jack. He's not going to have 7-5 offsuit. It's just unreasonable. Is 7-5 suited reasonable from the low jack? Yeah, depending on the stacks, sure. So you can give him credit for 4 of those, but don't give him credit for 16 of them. That's just too much credit to give anybody. Now, if the player's in the big blind and you've been check raised on the turn when the 3 becomes possible, or the straight becomes possible, well, then you have to consider it, because they're in the big blind. They could have defended very cheaply. Defending an offsuit hand is more common. But King Queen suit, Queen King Queen is a combination where you're going to play all 16 combinations, the suited and unsuited. So a good little thing to keep in mind about what to give your opponent credit for realistically. It's realistically. You're not a mind reader. You're just trying to go by tendencies and what people would do in a realistic scenario. Now, you're going to have situations. There's a King 6 hand offsuit, Queen 6 offsuit or King 6 offsuit that limped in first. A guy 3-bet, I 4-bet. He cold called the 4-bet. The 3-better folded. The flop comes off with a 6 on it. I bet 3/4 of the guy's chips, which was about half pot. He called it. The turn came off a king. He jammed it. I called. My pocket aces got cracked by King 6 because he made 2 pair on the turn. Is that going to happen? Yes. But I will say, that's the first time that's happened to me in the past year. I've probably played more than 250,000 hands in the last year. So it's kind of rare. So don't think it can never happen. Let's see here. How many combinations of ace-jack are there pre-flop? Well, if you don't see any jacks or ace-jack suited, there's 4 combinations. That's it. No matter what you see or whatever, it's 4. Suited combinations, there's only 4 of every combination in the deck. Bing! Remember, there's 4 aces, there's 4 jacks, but there's only 4 combinations where they're suited. Jacks, or diamonds, clubs, spades, and hearts. Next. How many combinations of ace-jack offsuit are there pre-flop? There are 4 aces we're going to use. There are 4 jacks we're going to use. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 combinations of all ace jacks. Oh, sorry, 12. It said offsuit. Damn it. It said offsuit, and I hit all combinations. It's 12 offsuit and 4 suited. P.S. Playing around with ACR skin. Why don't you, of all people, feature the Star Wars background? I haven't seen the new backgrounds. I'll probably put it on there, but I designed my ACR background to be something easy on my eyes. So it kind of depends what it looks like. If it looks good, I'll check it out today. If it looks good, I'll change it. But when you have, 5 or 6 games going at once, you kind of don't want a lot of bright colors and things like that, because I get that, what I call the video game glaze after so long. It's like when I was a kid and I used to play video games for fucking hours, and then you would shut it off and your eyeballs would feel like they were bulging out of your fucking head. It's probably not good for your eyes. How many combinations of 7-7 are there pre-flop? Well, suited and unsuited, that's very easy. If you have 1-7, the bridge of a Star Cruiser, I might have to check that out. So there's 4 combinations, because if you have 1-7 in your hand, there's only 3 left, only 4 combinations. So if you have 1-7, there's only 3 other ways you can get another. So, 6 combinations. Yeah, 6 combinations of every pair pre-flop. Easy to say. There's 2 cards in your hand, and you're looking for 3 different combinations versus every suit. So 6 combinations. On King of Spades, 7 of Clubs, 4 of Diamonds, how many combinations of Ace King are available? Well, we see 1 King, so there's 4 aces, there's 3 kings, there's 12 combinations. Bang. On the same flop, how many combinations of King 4 suited are there? This gets interesting. So, there's the King of Spades and the 4 of Diamonds, okay? So, that means that we can't use the King of Diamonds in this combination or the 4 of Spades. So that means there's only clubs and hearts left, because we're talking suited, okay? Suited, so 2 combinations, right? Because those other suits are accounted for. If the 4 of Diamonds on the board, nobody can have the suited King 4 of Diamonds in their hand because the 4 is there. You know what I'm saying? If the King of Spades is on board, nobody can have the suited King 4 of Spades because the King of Spades is on the board. So you have to take it away. How many combinations of Ace Jack are there pre-flop if you have the Jack of Hearts in your hand? Well, you see 1, so there's 12 left. Ta-da! 4 jacks times 3 aces, 4 aces times 3 jacks is 12. How many combinations of Jack Jar are there pre-flop if you have 1 in your hand? Well, there's 6 combinations, but you have a Jack, so you remove one of those sets. So what is there? There's 2 combinations left, right? 2? No, there's 3. There's 3 combinations. Yeah, you cut it in half. Yeah, when the Jack of Hearts is in your hand, every pocket pair is devalued by 50%, so combinations go from 6 to 3. And if you have 2 Jacks in your hand, there's only 1 combination left. If you have the Jack of Spades, Jack of Diamonds, there's only the Jack of Clubs, Jack of Hearts left. I don't know what the next topic is. Hang on one sec, I got to respond to this. Sorry, important message. All right, let's go to the next section. It is getting a little late, and I am going to play today, but I want to finish out this section, so we'll try to get through it. All right, that's the one. You know what? I should. I'll take it. I'll take it again another time, because I just misclicked that one.
Now let's discuss what separates this course from basically every other poker course that you can find, many of which charge a whole lot more for access. Some of them are charging $1,500 or more for content that is not actually implementable. And when I say that, what I mean is a lot of courses out there will show you the game theory optimal strategy for various spots, tell you to memorize it, and then tell you to do it. The problem with that, though, is that humans are very bad at actually implementing the game theory optimal strategy. The game theory optimal strategy, by the way, is solved using, well, very, very complicated math, and you need a high-end computer and a $1,000 program called PioSolver, or an even more expensive program called Munker Solver to solve. And it's a strategy that makes you very, very difficult to play against, to the point that if you use that strategy perfectly, your opponents will either break even or lose against you. The problem is that humans have a tough time implementing it, and you certainly cannot memorize every situation or even a subset of every situation as some other high-end poker courses ask you to do. In order to actually succeed long-term at the poker table, you need to know how to develop a strategy that is close enough to the game theory optimal strategy, and also how to apply it at the table. So let me show you what I mean. Here we have...
I think we're getting into another topic. I want to go back to the courses and see if we completed that first section, because this is seeming a little deep for that first section. We may have completed the first one. So this is the first one, 9 topics. So we did range, we did counting combinations. Why is this not... Oh, we didn't mark it as complete. Oh, duh.
Now that you understand equity, pot odds...
Mark is complete. Okay.
Now let's discuss counting combinations.
Mark is complete. I'm an idiot.
Now let's discuss...
So now it's implementable strategies. Let me see here. Now I want to go back to the lesson and see. Okay, we're at implementable strategies. What time is it? It's about 12:30. Maybe we can finish this. Let's see. Reminds me of when I rivered a pair of 7s at the Commerce Club on my second hand. The whole table collectively lost their shit. One comment was, there have been a lot of spade flushes. Yeah, I remember talking to a floor man long time ago when I was first in Vegas, and he said, if you want to learn something about people, be a floor man. And he was around from like the 50s. He was an old dude, and he had been a floor man for like 60 years. It was crazy. And he said that the biggest revenue hike he ever saw in a casino was when they added the board to roulette tables. You know that board that says red or black and the number that just came out, and people would see tons of red numbers come out and they would just bet huge on black. When the casino knows it's an independent event, it doesn't matter. But having that board makes people look at it and go, 9's been coming up a lot. I'm going to bet more on 9 or whatever. And he's like, he never saw such an increase in casino revenue, and they started implementing that all over the place. Quite good work by Jonathan Little. Yeah, it really is. Are you going to plan on playing some tournaments later? I am playing a lot of tournaments later. I'm actually, you know what? I think I want to look at the schedule right now. So let's do that, because I think implementable strategies is going to be kind of long. By the way, it was deuce 7 of spades. That's funny. Let me log into the old ACR here. I always misclick. Or I guess mistype. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Let's see what we got today. Oh, it was 2-7 of spades. That's funny. So there was 2 spades, 2-7 of spades in the deck. That's hilarious. Okay, so there's the special 125. Okay, we're going to take the medium off because I'm not playing those. I don't have the roll for that. There is the 4K. This will be a good start. Starts in about 41 minutes. Here we go. Here's the tent pole. 2 p.m. So 2 o'clock, there's the favorite format I love for a 10K guaranteed. Love the Big Ten. That's going to be the tent pole. And then before that, we have this 4K that we can enter. We have Oh, there is the Gripst Final Table Experience. I may get in on that. I'm not sure. This one, if we show up for that, we'll be entering it an hour late, which is fine. We can come in right there. That's cool. That's a good tournament to enter. I think that's as far back as I'm going to go. Yeah, Progressive Knockout. This one's good, but I think it's going to be, the structure's not going to be good enough because I'm going to miss about 2 hours of the registration, which is 8 levels. So I'd be coming in at 800, 1600. That'll give me 15 blinds. Yeah, that's no good. So this is the tent pole, the Big Ten. And then there's the 1K. That's playable. There's the 2K. That's definitely playable. There's this 5K. That's playable. So that's 3 more tournaments. And this one's playable. The 3K. That's 4. Yeah, I think that's where we cut it off until we get to here. There's 5. There's 6. So I've got 6, 7, 8, 9 potential tournaments, with this being the focus point. So in an hour and 40 minutes, I'm going to enter this one right at the start and then enter a few of them before and a few of them after. Do I like progressive knockouts? I do like progressive knockouts, but you have to be there right at the start. And to be quite honest, progressive knockouts to me are only worth it if you're playing for a sizable buy-in. So the progressive knockouts that I've played, I've satellited into because there is so much variance in them. So satelliting in is important. And I don't want to play a $5 progressive knockout because then if you make a few knockouts, whatever like that, you get your buy-in back, blah, blah, blah. It's not really worth the time unless you win it. And that's the thing, is that, you know how they say that most of the money in a tournament is at the top 3 places? That's very true. But an overwhelming amount of money in the tournament in progressive knockouts is in winning the goddamn tournament. Because you not only get the other player's bounty, you get all your bounties back. The top 2 guys will play for first place, but the guy who actually wins first, like, you'll get the same prize money, but the guy who actually wins first place will usually get 3 times that because of the bounties. So that's where the real money is. So because it's so volatile and because the payout structure is as such, I've satellited into some $55 and $110 progressive knockouts, you know, for between $2 and I almost satellited into one yesterday, to between $2 and $10. And then satelliting in there, and then hitting one bounty in a $50 buy-in, you know, makes you $12.50. Doesn't sound like much, but when you only spent $2 to get in it, you're better than free rolling. You've 6x'd your money, and every place you go from there is huge. And just cashing the tournament is huge. So because they're so volatile, I really like to satellite my way in. That's my feeling on progressive knockouts. If I had a proper bankroll, I'd probably feel differently. But I think it does have to be worth more money because people call so much wider that if the buy-in is $5, they're calling with everything. Like, so you're going to have to just win so many 70-30s where you have ace-king and the other guy has, like, ace-10. You're going to have to win so many of those to do well in the tournament. It's fucking staggering. So unless you're going on a Jamie Gold Sun run, it's going to be hard times to make those profitable. All right, I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to chill out. I got to get ready for my Sunday grind. It's going to be a long grind today. And I'll see you guys back here at 2 o'clock. All right? Have a good day. I'm not going to host anybody. Everybody's out there playing. You guys find somebody. Just turn on your alerts. I'll be back around 2. See ya. I guess I could stop.